As you may know, Thich Nhat Hanh passed away on January 22nd. He wrote a lot of books. I think the number is about 130, of which I have two, one of which I've read, the other I have still yet to read. So I didn't know a lot about him. But with all of the messages cropping up on Facebook about all the things he did, I began to realize, even much more so than I already knew, just all of his achievements and how influential he was. So I'm going to try to capture in a short talk here the essence of his contribution. So as I mentioned, I've been studying him closely this week, and I was just amazed. One of the videos I watched was an interview with him that Oprah did 8 years ago. And he was the personification of peace. For any of you who have ever heard him speak, he speaks very slowly, never in a hurry. I mean, never in a hurry. In fact, he was late. His first time meeting Martin Luther King, he was late to meet him. And I think the second time as well, because he never does anything in a hurry. And as I watched the lectures, I realized, despite this sense of peace, you also see this intelligence, this extreme intelligence, as he moves effortlessly between speaking French and Vietnamese, and then he'll lecture in English. Sometimes he often lectured in France, where he spent many of his remaining years before he moved back to Vietnam. And he would have people in his audience who spoke one of the three languages. So he would dance back and forth between those languages, and it was just amazing. To capture his contributions, they kind of fall into a few areas for me. First of all, he was a pacifist, and he was key in the evolution of the nonviolence movement. And coincidentally, as BJ mentioned today, this is the season for nonviolence. It begins today. It's marked by the anniversary of the assassination of Gandhi on January 30th. And it ends at the anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. on April 4th, the season for nonviolence. And Thich Nhat Hanh was very influential in that. In June of 1965, this 2 days before I was born, on June 1st, he wrote a letter to Martin Luther King expressing his views on peace. And exactly a year later, they met. This meeting ended up being hugely influential in Martin Luther King's objection to the Vietnam War. And after that meeting, Martin Luther King came out very, very strongly against the Vietnam War. And he subsequently, Martin Luther King Jr. nominated Thich Nhat Hanh for the Nobel Peace Prize. I didn't know that. And also, what I didn't know was that because of his pacifism, Thich Nhat Hanh was exiled from his homeland of Vietnam for 39 years. He eventually did go back there. Some people criticized him for going back there in his final, I believe it was 8 years. But he was exiled from the 60s on because he believed that the warring sides of Vietnam could find peace. And the government didn't want to hear that. The government wanted people behind the war. But Thich Nhat Hanh thought, if everyone came to the realization of their oneness, there could be no war. There would be no war. And speaking of oneness, he coined a term that I don't even think it's found in the dictionary, but he coined the term interbeing. And interbeing means that we are all citizens of the world. So why should we fight? Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "We are all leaves of one tree. We are all waves of one sea." And so interbeing, besides meaning we're connected with each other, it means we're connected to the earth, the stars, and the universe. And I saw a lecture this week where he was talking so powerfully about, long before the popular scientists of today were saying we were made of stars, long before Carl Sagan said we're made of stars, he was saying we are made of stars, and the sun is also a star. Without the light of the sun, these bodies would not be alive. And so we are the sunshine. The paper that you're holding in front of you has the energy of the sunshine locked in its molecules. So the interconnectivity of all things. And it goes to the planet. He talked about Mother Earth and Father Sky long before it was in vogue to do so. And he and his followers cared deeply about ecological issues, such as global warming. But he believed that our path to healing the planet was healing ourselves. He absolutely believed in that, but he also believed in action. Next, back to this term interbeing, it means that we're all connected. So he said, how could there be death? He was 95 when he transitioned, and that was the same age as my mom when she passed a little bit over a year ago. And he called someone's birthday not a birthday, but a continuation day. In the New Thought movement, you often hear it called an appearance day, right? And this is really paying homage to, it's just appearing transitioned in a new form of life. It's not true birth and true death. It's simply continuing. Shortly after his death, there was a writing that made its way around the world, and I wanted to read it to you. If you think that I am only this body, then you have not truly seen me. When you look at my friends, you see my continuation. When you see someone walking with mindfulness and compassion, you know he or she is my continuation. I don't see why we have to say, I will die, because I can already see myself in you. I can already see myself in other people and in future generations. Even when the cloud is no longer there, it continues as snow or rain. It's impossible for a cloud to die then. It can become rain or ice, but it cannot become nothing. There's no beginning and no end. I will never die. I will continue always. And that was so appropriate to read the day that he made his transition, and to remember that he is still here in this way. And this touched me deeply because often, we all have our different ways of connecting with loved ones when they passed on. But, for me, my dad has always appeared frequently in my dreams. And for some reason, my mom has never really appeared. When someone passes on and they appear in a dream and it's the message from them, it's them speaking to you from the afterlife. That has not happened with my mom yet. I'm waiting for it to happen. But this teaching of Thich Nhat Hanh gave me so much comfort, because I know that my mom she's blood of my blood, but she's also a part of all things, everything. This piece of paper, she continues through me. She continues through everyone. So I just love this teaching. And of all the things that Thich Nhat Hanh was known for, the one that stands out the most is his teachings on mindfulness. Thich Nhat Hanh is considered the father of mindfulness. That's hard to say over and over again. Thich Nhat Hanh, but he's known by his friends as Thai, simply Thai. But he brought the concept of mindfulness to the West before it was a household word. It's a household word nowadays. It's in every corporation, but it wasn't at one point. It was even just a few years ago. People like, what's mindfulness? Is that the same thing as meditation? Is that the same thing as peace? He helped define it for the West. He even gave lectures over at the Google campus about mindfulness. And he famously taught that we could all become bodhisattvas. In other words, enlightened by finding happiness in simple things. It said that he said we can find mindfulness of the Buddha in peeling an orange or in the sipping of tea. He also talked a lot about chanting or singing, or just saying words while you meditated. And one of the favorite ones of mine is this, and I invite you to just do this with me. Just take a breath in. Think of nothing but the breath. And breathing at your own pace, knowing that this is the sacred, holy breath. The next time you breathe out, say, I am blooming like a flower. The next time you breathe out, say, I am renewed like the morning itself. I am renewed like the morning itself. The next time you breathe out, you can say, I am solid as a mountain. I am solid as a mountain. And I love that. That's a complete meditation. It's not only the interconnectedness of all things, I'm blooming like a flower. It's the renewing, or the newing, as Myrtle Fillmore used to say. The newing of each morning is possible in every cell of my body. It's really happening in every cell of my body, the newing of everything and the newing of everything around us in the world. And then I'm as solid as a mountain. For me, I cannot chant, I am as solid as a mountain, without somehow feeling a little taller and a little solid in my spine. Did you feel that? I am as solid as a mountain. And this is the power of just simple words and simple drawing of our attention to the oneness of all things. How can it not be? We are interconnected to everything. We are the mountain. We are the flower. We are the morning. So Thich Nhat Hanh made spirituality relatable. He made it easy. You know, he often said that enlightenment does not happen outside of daily life. So you don't have to study with some guru. You don't have to go read some long text. You can find enlightenment in everyday acts. And he said, in everyday acts, such as the exercise we just did, the Buddha is waiting for you. He called this coming home to yourself. It's not in the next life. It's not in some imaginary heaven, right? We don't believe that in New Thought, but we absolutely can have enlightenment right here, right now, in our daily lives. Right here, we have this touchstone. We have the essence of the Buddha. We are the Bodhisattva right now. And it's in the home called us, coming home to ourselves. So during a talk I did last year, I often referenced walking meditation. And this is the first time I started to talk about Thich Nhat Hanh in this ministry. And I believe, and this teaching of Thich Nhat Hanh, he talked so much about achieving mindfulness while you're walking. And I believe in the power of this because it's so attainable, and it's something, we walk every day. And I know, some of you that go on 8-mile walks, and some of you that keep track of your steps. And, today it's 5,000 and Margot does 15,000 steps. Wow. But even if you only do 100 steps, even if you're just walking from one end to the house of the other, Thich Nhat Hanh called walking a way to liberate yourself from all fear and all anxiety. Isn't that amazing? How can walking liberate you from all fear and all anxiety? It happens when you just be with the walking. And so there's another something else he said about walking meditation. He said, "Take my hand, we will walk. We will only walk. We will enjoy our walk without thinking of arriving anywhere. We will walk for ourselves. We will walk for another. We will walk for everyone. Each step makes a flower bloom underneath our feet. Kiss the earth with your feet. Print on earth your love and happiness with your feet. Earth will be safe when we feel in us enough safety." I love that. Earth will be safe when we feel in us enough safety. This is where you go back to the theme of, if we heal ourselves, then we will heal the planet. So the next time you go for a walk, just think, this is the way to enlightenment. We don't need to read the Dhammapadas or the Vedas or the Bible necessarily to reach enlightenment. We don't need anything but ourselves. That's why he talked about coming home to ourselves, because that's where the Buddha is waiting. And that's where we become living bodhisattvas. A bodhisattva is the Dalai Lama is a bodhisattva. It's like a saint. It's like a deity of Buddhism that achieved enlightenment, but did not go to nirvana, right? Instead of going to nirvana and exiting the cycle of reincarnation, the bodhisattva decides to stay here until the last being is suffering no more, until the last being is saved. So that's bodhisattva nature. So I want to share one more aspect of Thich Nhat Hanh, and he talked about aspirations a lot. One might think, oh, mindfulness, it's all boring and it's all just, zoned out and zenned out. But it really isn't. He really believed that this is a place where we can connect to our passions. And he said this: any bodhisattva, any great being, always has a tremendous source of energy within them. If you don't yet have an aspiration, you need to find it. We should sit down with our partner or with our friends and inquire about each other's deepest dreams. And if you share the same kind of aspiration, your relationship with them will get stronger. We are here alive today in this body, and we all want to do something within this lifetime. We want this lifetime to be useful and meaningful. If you don't yet have an aspiration, you need to find it. So he was very passionate about this, and his aspirations were many. I think we can honor Thich Nhat Hanh by just thinking today about spiritual practices and taking a cue from him in that the simplest acts can be a spiritual practice. I know that if you look back at Unity principles and Unity teachings, they center on prayer and meditation as spiritual practices, but those are evolving all the time. And there's a Unity booklet that's called Spiritual Tools and Practices that lists 12 different spiritual practices. Some of us, when we get asked a question, do you ever get asked this question? Do you have a daily spiritual practice? And you feel some sense of shame unless you can say, oh, yes, I meditate for 1 hour each morning, facing east, right? A lot of us don't have a formal, repeatable spiritual practice. A lot of us can't meditate and concentrate for longer than 15 minutes, right? And there's no shame in that. If we think about what Thich Nhat Hanh teaches, he said it just can be achieved in the in-breath and in the out-breath, and in simply enjoying doing nothing, but just breathing. And so I invite you to think about your expansion of whatever your spiritual practices are. If he said that walking can be the way to enlightenment, then so can compassionate listening, so can compassionate giving, so can spiritual study, which doesn't have to happen through a book. It can happen through YouTube videos. I know many of you are all about getting your wisdom from YouTube videos, and that is the media of today, right? Spiritual practice can be singing, right? Not only listening to Gary singing, but sound healing. They say that when we sing, we pray twice. That's a spiritual practice. It extends to yoga, running, walking, anything, painting, journaling. And once again, Thich Nhat Hanh said, when in doubt, just enjoy doing nothing and breathing. You remember what Reverend Paulette Pipe said, the temple bell moment? It just means just take a second out. Just take 15 seconds out and just take a breath and close your eyes and connect. And that's a full and complete spiritual practice. So I'll end by saying that exactly a month before Thich Nhat Hanh's death, coincidentally, there was a posting on his Facebook page called Going Home, and I would like to read it to you now. The practice of going home in the Buddhist tradition is simple enough for people to understand, but it's a very deep practice, and it can bring results right away. We need the energy of mindfulness and concentration in order to go home. But we don't need to buy a plane ticket or a train ticket to go home. We just need to ride on our in-breath, mindful in-breath, mindful out-breath, in order to go home. And with every step we take, we come closer to our true home. Let's go within for a prayer. So I say thank you, Thich Nhat Hanh. We see you now. We see you today. You are alive here in this room. We thank you for teaching us the simple ways of becoming enlightened, becoming a bodhisattva in this lifetime. Thank you for teaching us that you are not gone, that you are still here. You continue with every flower, with every mountain, with every morning. You continue, as do we. And we will remember to come home to ourselves, knowing that everything we need is right here. This is where our divinity sits. For this awareness, I'm so, so grateful. And so it is. And Gary is going to sing what is my favorite song and of his. And I've probably heard it 100 times. No, more than 100 times. It's called Unbound. And I was thinking this week about Thich Nhat Hanh. He talked about freedom, meditating, freeing us, being free from outside influences. And so this song Unbound reminds me of that freeing influence.
Open your mind and unfold your heart. Relax your senses and feel every part. You ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. Breathe every breath release your cringe. Love without waiting, slowly unhinge. You ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. You can stop waiting for love to find you. Look inside your heart. Love's already who you are. It's already who we are. So lift up your voice. Lift it up now, now, let it be heard. Let it be heard. And tell me your story. Tell it to me. And don't leave out a word, no. 'Cause I think I've been there too. I'm a seeker just like you. And you ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. Lay it all down, down, down. Unbound. Unbound. Open your mind and unfold your heart. Love be with you. Ooh, love be with you. Ooh. All together, hand in hand, we see the light, we take a stand. We are changing a whole new life for you and me. Take your past and set it free. Share this blessing. Love be with you, peace enfold you, spirit lift you, breathe it in. Truth come through you, make good flow to you, let joy renew you till we meet again. Love be with you. Ooh, love be with you. Love be with you, peace enfold you, spirit lift you, breathe it in. Truth come through you, make good flow to you, and let joy renew you till we meet again. Love be with you. Ooh, love be with you. Sing it with me. Ooh, love be